Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Connection Table here. This is a table we're connecting at the BSC. I'm Daniel Bobinski, the Education Director here at the BSC. Thanks again for joining us. And another episode. We want to do this every week. We try to do these live broadcasts. So if you're watching this live, congratulations. Unfortunately, we're not yet able to do Q&A. I can't hear you, but in the future, we may get to that point when we start doing some more interactive stuff. In the meantime, this is kind of unidirectional. I wanted to talk to you today about some of the classes we're doing, which I haven't in the past, but more specifically, the certificates we're now offering. We've been working very diligently here at the BSC to solidify what our required classes are going to be for our various certificate programs. And we think we're done. So I want to share some of that information with you. And then at the end of the show here, about 10 minutes today, we're going to be taking a look at what we have going on tonight at the BSC. So stay tuned for that. So I have been talking about the certificate programs. We've been offering classes at the BSC for 53 years, where you can come here, take classes on the Bible. We've been focusing mostly on students. So this past year, the board has made a decision to not ignore the students. We're still going to be reaching out to them, but also to reach out to the community. And earlier this week, I was speaking at a conference of churches, showing them what we're doing. And these churches are showing great interest in our classes and our certificate programs to help raise up ministry leaders in their congregations. If that's you, come check out what we're doing. I'm going to invite you to go to our website, boisebsc.org, boisebsc.org, and click on the education link and then click on the certificates link. And we have up there now links to all the different requirements for the certificates. You can find out what's needed. And the 5 different certificates are apologetics, biblical studies, Biblical Counseling 1, Biblical Counseling 2, and a certificate in Christian education. Let me go over what's required in each of these certificates. I'll do a kind of a 20,000-foot flyover. The apologetics course is going to teach you how to defend the faith, how to explain the reason why you believe in Jesus, and why if somebody has questions, it's going to help you answer those questions with confidence. So we have in required classes, there are 10 required classes. By the way, all of our classes are only 5 weeks long, 10-hour sessions, so it's not that bad. And guess what? It's only $10 for a 5-week class. So you could basically think of it as $1 an hour of instruction. So the first class required in that is Introduction to Apologetics. That class is going to be offered in the fall. Right now, the next class, Cultural Apologetics, is going to be starting here in just a few weeks at the BSC. It's going to be on Thursday afternoons. Now, actually, it's going to be starting in March. So if you wanted to start learning about apologetics, you can take that class now. But guess what? We have other classes that are going to be required for this certificate that are starting now. So listen up. We'll be talking about Old Testament survey. That class is going on now. New Testament survey starts in a few weeks. That's a required class. That's going to be an online Zoom class you can take from anywhere in the world or in your pajamas. Nobody cares. As long as you're getting the information, we're good. Another class we're going to be taught starting in March is going to be Who is Jesus? The Life of the Messiah, and a required class for apologetics. And then Biblical Worldview. That's a class that's actually going on now. And then Comparative Worldview starts in a few weeks. These are required classes for the certificate in APOL. And then we're also going to be taking a look at the greatest commandment. What is love? It's the greatest commandment, important to know, as well as other required classes, historical reliability of Scripture, logic and critical thinking. These are going to be good informational classes to help you in talking with people about your faith. So again, you go to boisebsc.org to find out what these requirements are and what the write-ups for these classes are. We've tried to set this up so that you can take all these classes in a year's time. Again, they're only 5 weeks long. So if you go through all of them in a year's time, you could end up with a certificate in apologetics in less than a year, which is kind of cool. Another certificate is the certificate in biblical studies. There's a lot of overlap between the apologetics and the biblical studies certificate. We have 4 or 5 in the apologetics one that are strictly apologetics topics, but there's also some here that apply. So, for example, Old Testament overview applies here. It's a required class. New Testament overview. Who is Jesus? Required class. Biblical worldview, and then the greatest commandment, the class on love. Those are all going to be overlap classes. But in addition to that, to get a certificate in biblical studies, how to interpret the Bible. And we could use all the fancy academic words for this, but I just want you, everybody wants to know about hermeneutics. Well, a lot of folks don't even know what hermeneutics is. It's how do you interpret the Bible? So that's what we titled the class. We're trying to stay out of strict academe and make it real. The storyline of Scripture, right? The history of Scripture. That class is going to be taught in the summertime here. Understanding Paul's letters. And then a class on what we're calling Between the Testaments, the world that Jesus entered. Jesus came into the world on the earth between the Old and the New Testament. The New Testament didn't even start getting written until after Jesus died. So we want to find out what was life like in that intertestament period. And then lastly, the nature and character of God. These will be classes that will be required for certificates in biblical studies. Now, the certificate in apologetics and biblical studies, those are the 10 required classes. There is also a requirement for 5 electives. That's where you get to choose classes from our list that could apply to that certificate. I would approve those. You may even come to me and say, "Hey, I've taken this class elsewhere at a Bible college, or I take this other course online, like the Bible Project offers some great classes." We'll work with you on those so that you get a certificate that you like using classes that you like. All right, let's move on to the class on biblical counseling. We've got certificate level 1 and certificate level 2. Now, the certificate level 1 is an 85-hour of classroom instruction. So there's going to be basically 8.5 classes of 10-hour classes or 5-week classes, and then a practicum of 20 hours that you have to do. So 105 hours of total time, which you can accomplish in less than a year if you make it a goal. If you want to do it over a couple years, that's fine. But that's going to be a level 1 certificate in biblical counseling. I'm not going to go over all the classes, but I will tell you starting mid-February here at the BSC, our instructors who are practicing counselors with terminal degrees. They are the highest level of degree in their field, marriage and family counseling, Christian psychology. We have these. This is the kind of thing. Yes, there is such a thing. So starting in mid-February, Foundations of Biblical Counseling starts, and then Essential Counseling Skills. That'll be on Monday mornings and Wednesday mornings. So if that's of interest to you, that starts in February. There's also a second level, a more advanced level in biblical counseling. That's going to start next year, the classes for that. But so that you know what classes are required, all you have to do is go to boisebsc.org, click on the education link, and then click on certificates to take a look at what the requirements are. Finally, I want to talk about the certificate in Christian Ed, and then we'll talk about what's happening tonight at the BSC. Tonight, oh, that's in a second, haha. The Christian Ed certificate is going to be a class that we're going to teach this summer. It's an intensive, very short course. It's going to be 5 weeks long. The classes are going to be held 1 day per week, but they're going to be full day classes. So 3 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. There will be homework assignments. Each week we'll do that for 5 weeks. It'll be on either a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. I've not yet decided. But if you go through those 5 weeks of classes and do the assignments, and then there's another 25 hours of what we call practicum. And Christian Ed is a very broad topic. And I've created 3 different practicum options for you, depending on what you're doing. I'm going to assume that if you want to get this certificate, that you're involved in your church in some way, and you might want to have some good training in how to do Christian Ed at your church. So we're going to have 3 different practicums. Teacher and curriculum development path. So if you're going to be a Christian teacher or you're going to be developing curriculum for your church's Sunday school, or whether it's adult Sunday school or children's Sunday school, doesn't matter. If that's what you're going to be doing, we have a practicum set of assignments for that. And then if you're just going to be like a program director for Christian Ed. We're going to have you design and deliver certain biblical lessons, but also create an education program plan. That's a practicum there. And then thirdly, we have a ministry leadership track. So if you're a pastor or a senior pastor, or you're overseeing a larger education program at your church, this might be for you. If you're not going to be in the classroom, you're just overseeing the program, we have a practicum option for you there. So all of those options are listed on our website, boisebsc.org. Go to the education tab and then click on the certificates to see what's required. All right, let's wrap up today's live stream show here at the BSC by talking about what's happening tonight. Mr. Neil Mammen is an apologist. This guy is an engineer by training. He was in Silicon Valley and realized, he's also a solid Christian. He knows how to approach things from a very logical point of view. And he's written several books, and he's kind of an in-demand speaker, very engaging speaker. We got him to come here tonight at the BSC, Friday, January 30th. And Neil is going to be talking about debunking the myths about Jesus, debunking the myths about Christ. The class starts at 6:30. What's class? It's going to be an open discussion room in the downstairs area in our main room. When you walk in, main floor, Neil will be there. He's going to start talking at 6:30. I'm going to recommend, if you want to come, that you come a little early so you can get some parking and get a good seat. And he'll talk for maybe 45, 50 minutes and give his presentation to debunk some very common myths. And then he's going to do a Q&A. So if you have questions, you'll be able to ask those questions, and Neil will answer your questions. So it's going to be a very interactive hour and a half. Neil's going to talk for 45, 50 minutes and then do some Q&A. If you are in the Treasure Valley and you want to hear Neil talk, I strongly encourage you to come on down to the Biblical Study Center. We're at 1025 Belmont Street, just off Broadway here in Boise. If you know where the stadium is, if you've gone to a Broncos football game, we are one block south of them, just basically a block away. How easy could it be? Go to the stadium, go a block south, 1025 Belmont Street, the Biblical Study Center. Tonight's event starts at 6:30. All right, that's all I've got for today. We're going to catch you next Friday with our next live stream edition of the Connection Table. I am Daniel Bobinski, the Education Director here at the BSC. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Until then, be blessed.
Visit us at boisebsc.org to learn more and sign up for classes. Every class we offer applies toward one or more of our certificate programs. We're the Biblical Studies Center, a place to connect and grow right here in Idaho's Treasure Valley.